Hey friends, I'm Tiffany,
And I'm Nick.
and you're listening to the Twisdom Podcast, where you're typical twins talking about mental wellness.
And getting better every day. Cool. So I'm just gonna jump into it. Man, life has been lifing, bro. Life has been lifing. I was getting on the elevator the other day in my apartment, and these two kids from down the hall were already on. One goes, "What's wrong?" And the other one slides his back down the wall. He says, "I'm stressed." And the other one goes, "It's okay, man. I feel you." And I'm like, what could little homie possibly be stressed out about? Like when I was their age, I didn't even know what the word stress meant. I didn't know it existed. And it's like, are kids already adulting these days? Like, are they already have that much going on? Um, that much stress? Like, why is adulting so hard nowadays? It seems like it's ubiquitous for everyone, even like the youth. I mean, when you think about it, today we're already overwhelmed with responsibility. We got to manage our social life, our friends, dating. We got our careers, school, whatever it may be. The hustle culture is real. That's
Mm,
burning people out.
mm-hmm.
The U.S. Labor Department announced that 8.4 million people work multiple jobs. So, I'm talking like people that have two jobs or more. And, with all the social expectations that you see on social media, like, man, you got to already have like a Lamborghini now. You got to have a girlfriend. You got to be married, blah, blah, blah. You're only 20. You don't got all this. Like, life is hard. Everyone's trying to balance stuff enough. But then you try to add expectations to it, bro. Like, I don't know how people are surviving. And I wanted to ask you, like, what is the most challenging part of adulting for you right now?
Oh, that's a good question because I pretty much think about this every day when I get home from work. It's like, okay, I work an 8 to 5, and then when I get home, it's like I only have 4 or 5 hours if I have that. It might be even less than that, 4 or 5 hours to do everything that I need to get done, and then go to bed, and then repeat that the next day for the next few days. And so it's just like what I have to do when I get home. Sometimes I got to go run errands. Sometimes I go to the gym. Sometimes I got to cook. Um, Sometimes I got to plan ahead, and I'll just like cook meals for several days. So that might take a little bit longer than just cooking one meal. And then what else? I got to kind of like get I have to be social sometimes too, because my friends will text me during the day, and I'll probably be too busy to respond during my work day, but then I'll respond when I get home. And then when I get home, it's like, oh, 5, 6, 7 texts, or 5, 6, 7 friends messaging me, texting me. It's like, man, I feel so overwhelmed. I can't even respond right now. So then I might not respond till the next day. And what else? I also have to make time for myself when I get home too. So whether that's like um, social life, relationships, dating, just like relaxing. So maybe watching some of my favorite TV shows, or reading, or whatever the case may be. But it's like 4 to 5 hours. How do I fit that in that small time frame after I get off work? So that's just it's tough. Adulting is tough. Like I feel you. I feel those kids in the elevator. I don't know what stresses they have, but I know the stresses of adulting, and it is tough. So I wanted to ask you, like, what were you expecting adulting to look like versus what does it actually look like for you?
Good question. Like my expectations versus reality type thing. Um, I don't know, man. Moving to the city, after I graduated, I expected, be partying every other night, going out, hanging out with people, going to bars every other night, and having a lot of friends, have a lot of free time, have a lot of, you know, time to just to myself. But it's kind of the exact opposite of that. Like ever since I've been here, it's been like 3 years, I guess. I really only made like one real friend. I don't have time after work to like go out to a bar every other night because I gotta worry about um hanging out with other friends, or I gotta worry about getting something ready for work the next day. Then I gotta worry about the bills I gotta pay. Then I gotta realize like, hey, I'm still not making enough money as is to afford this apartment. So it's like I got to figure out, man, do I got to start doing a side job? Do I got to start side
Mm,
hustle? And I'm like, dang, bro, I miss being a kid because having that independence, man, any choice you made really didn't really matter. Now the choices I make are like, do I spend $20 on this skin in a video game, or do I use that for gas money? So
mm,
it's
mm-hmm.
rough, man. It's
Decisions,
rough.
decisions.
Facts.
But yeah, I hear you. Like it's like a it's like a give and take relationship. What can I give? What can I take? Um, so that's what adulting, man. That's what I've been learning over these last few months. You have to be more cognizant of your priorities in adulthood, I would say.
So
Yeah.
okay, so my expectations were shot, but how were your expectations met, or was your expectations living up to the reality?
So I guess what I expected adulting to be like is okay. You work a 9 to 5. You gotta pay bills. You gotta figure out if you'll have room for a social life. Um, and it's actually all of that and more. So like that was like my bare minimum expectation of adulting, but in reality, it's so much more than that. It's you got to figure out um, all those things like budgeting, paying bills, working uh, 9 to 5, well 8 to 5 in my case, and then social life. And it's even harder when, from my perspective as a single adult, like I can't speak on married couples perception of adulting, but as my perception as um, a young adult who just kind of started the adulting phase, it's been a lot. It's like, okay, I moved to this new city. I have to kind of get in the groove of recognizing, okay, where do I need to go for work? Where do I park? And that's a whole nother, parking is a whole nother topic. I'm not going to get on that, but I got to figure out, okay, where am I going to shop for my groceries? Um, got to figure out um, like where how am I going to have a social life, how am I going to make friends, because I hardly knew anybody in this area. And so it was lonely at first. um, and sometimes you'll make those really good connections at work, sometimes you won't. And so it's just figuring out, where do I want to find my community of friends, and even friends who are like closer around your age. I feel like that's such a helpful thing, to have friends who are in that same life stage as you, um, just to kind of, you can just walk through it together. But it's how do I, as an adult, how do I take care of myself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? Because I feel like in from high school to college, yeah, you get a little bit of independence, a little bit of freedom, but that's not really adulting. um, at least for me it wasn't. Some people it might be. But then when I went to grad school, it was a little bit more adulting. Okay, I got to pay some of my bills. Um, and thank goodness for my assistantship, which that was my job. I worked to get paid so I could pay these bills. And then I had like, it was moving to a whole other place. So making friends, starting that cycle all over again. But in school, I feel like I had that, the more free time in a sense, to be able to go out with friends. Not that I did this, but people can do it. But go out with friends on a weeknight, or just hang out with friends throughout the week and in the weekends. But as an adult, when I come home from work, I don't feel like doing jack. So it's like, man, the freedom that I had in college and a little bit in grad school is a little different now, as an adult and working woman. And but I will say that it's been nice not having to come home and do homework. So, but in place of homework, I have to like go run errands, go to the gym, cook, um, plan ahead for the next day, or make weekend plans, or um, carve out some time to do a hobby that I like, which is rarely happens in adulthood for me, at least so far. And so it's just like we're figuring out how to label your priorities and what's most important and focusing on those first. And then the other ones might come eventually.
Facts.
Hmm. Yeah. So I had another question for you because we're just kind of speaking on this topic of adulting. And I just mentioned like ways to, or what I've been trying to prioritize or thinking about that aspect in adulting where you have to prioritize certain things over others. So I wanted to ask you currently, what are those areas of adulthood that you're prioritizing?
Good question. Good question. Um, Nowadays, honestly, it feels like I prioritize my career a lot. Just because, nowadays, like finances and just planning is important because, inflation and all that, but the job market, so spending a lot of time focusing there, but it's taken out of my time to be able to, hang out with my friends, hang out with my family, get to enjoy my hobbies. So it's kind of a give and take. Like you said, I give more into that job, but it's kind of taken away from the rest of the aspects of my life. And I don't know. I really need to get better at balancing it. And I think that's what's most important about managing your adult life is just finding that balance. You know, I don't know why I just thought of this, but like when you handle your adult life, you kind of got to juggle a lot. And I don't know if you ever learned how to
Hmm.
juggle. I tried. That junk's hard.
So
Like
hard.
it is hard. Like you gotta like toss one up at one point up in the sky, and then toss one up in the left point. Then you got another one that you gotta switch hands with and toss. It's a lot, but you're trying to practice the pattern of throw, catch. And what are you doing? You're just balancing those objects in the air, essentially. But in a way, like a juggler tosses pins and tosses knives or tosses those beanbags, balancing your adult life is just like that. You know, when you juggle, you can't juggle too much more than you can handle because what happens, the difficulty increases the more you try to handle. And you can't juggle two heavy items. Like, for example, you got a heavy bowling pin versus a beanbag. You toss both of them at the same time. That heavy one's gonna drop faster, and just like in life, those heavy responsibilities are gonna fall faster if
Mm.
you're not
Mm.
aware of the balance. And with that, starting out, learn how to juggle. It's okay to put some down. I started learning how to juggle just two at a time and then built
Mm.
upon that. And with life, it's just about balancing. And the last thing I'll say about juggling, it's less of a physical aspect than it is mental because you're really just training your brain to recognize and adapt to when you underthrow or overtoss one of those items and you gotta readjust to get it back into that balance. That's what juggling is. And with
Mm.
adulting, finding that balance is just like that. But yeah, does that
Yeah.
make sense? Does
Yeah, definitely. I want to speak to one of the points you made where it's like you were only juggling two things at first, and then you could add more and more into the cycle. And that's like that was what I my experience with adulting as well. It's like okay, my first priority was to when I moved to this new city, my first priority was work. So I needed to make sure I knew how to get to work, make sure I got to work on time, make sure I knew what my responsibilities were. Um, and I'm definitely a person who asks questions. So I ask a lot of questions if I don't understand or if I need more support. Um, and so, yeah, it was just work, figuring that out first. And then as I started to get used to that, I realized, okay, now I need to make time to grow my social community here in my new city. And so I didn't really know anyone here, like I mentioned earlier. But I knew someone who went to my undergrad and I reached out to her and like we became really good friends and she knows a lot of people. So she connected me to some other friends and got me connected to this church and I got connected to a small group like Bible study. And then that's how I kind of started growing my social network. Okay, so then those are my two priorities right now. Um, and then I guess in between, I probably had some smaller priorities of like making sure I stick to my budget, go run errands, get groceries, um, kind of planning meals in my head. Um, I do a lot of meal prep, so I will cook and then eat off that for the next few days, which that has been helpful to kind of manage. But like you said, I guess like you said, my first priority. Well, maybe not like you said, but my first priority was work. That was my big bowling ball that I was trying to juggle, and then I added in another big bowling ball of my social life. But in the middle of juggling those two, I had like the smaller ones, like making sure I eat and
Can't forget that.
get gas for my car. So those are a little smaller. And yeah, it was just like getting used to the new area came with time as well, like another small bean bag. So,
Facts, 100%. Yeah, I really like what you said. What I wrote down was, you know, over time you kept adding those responsibilities, but slowly, and you did a
mm-hmm,
lot of planning.
mm-hmm,
Those that's a great way to handle, adulting. Is just starting
mm-hmm.
slow in the plan as you go. I was wondering if you had any other actionable steps or actionable items people could take to, get better at handling the responsibilities they have right now. In that same regard.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, I will say though, let me preface with these actionable steps might not fit for everyone, just because I know I'm kind of personally talking from a young adult stage who's single and like only has to care for myself. So these might not work for other people in different areas and stages of adulting, but they might. So maybe you can give them a try. But I think some actionable steps that helped me and are still helping me. First one is recognizing what my priorities are. And even if you have to write them down, like what are the areas of my life that I need, I need. We can have
Mhm.
areas in our life that we want, but what are the areas in your life that you need to focus on? And throughout your adulting, those are going to shift. Like some seasons, you might have to lean more heavily on that social community that you have. Other times, you might have to lean more heavily on work, and we might not have that balance that we would like. But just kind of being cognizant of what do I need to prioritize? What do I need to prioritize less? And again, those can change. And then another thing that has really helped me in adulting is using calendars. So I have a calendar in my bedroom where I schedule lunch dates, dinner dates with friends. I schedule um, chores, like a chores that I need to do or appointments that I have. I schedule friends' birthdays so that I don't forget my friends' birthdays. Um, I schedule what else? FaceTime calls for my friends who are not living in the city that I'm in. So it just helps me to keep everything organized, to not forget important dates, to remember all the things that I need to do, all my responsibilities. And then I think another actionable step would be to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and carving out time for yourself. And even if it's only like 1 hour in your week, which I hope it's more than that. But even if it's just that, we all need time to recharge and pour back into ourselves. So whatever that is for you, please please go ahead and do that and figure out what that is for you if you don't know. So I know for me, what recharges me is hanging out with my friends, um, either going to lunch or going to small group or just I don't know, doing something fun with my friends. Because I at my work at at my job, I pour out, pour out, pour out, pour out, and it's like, man, I've been pouring out all week. I need to be refilled. So that's what refills me. Other things like that refill me are just channeling my creativity, whether that's writing or painting or doing some arts and crafts activity. But yeah, or making music for some people. I don't make music, but I know you can see Nick's background back there. He makes a little bit of music. So yeah, is there anything you would want to add to that, or anything that you think I might not have mentioned that's important as an actionable step?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I was thinking the same thing. I was on the same wavelength for some reason. I was thinking
Whoa,
like plan.
that
I
twin
tell you, bro.
telepathy.
Bro, it be hitting. I don't understand it sometimes, but you said pretty much exactly what I wrote down. Plan,
Mm,
prioritize, and then recharge, give back, you know? Like you said, planning helps out so much because it allows you to break those tasks down into smaller actions, make it more manageable for you. Like that may mean, I got to go to the gym today. I want to work out for an hour, but I might only have 30 minutes because I got to meet such and such after.
mm,
Manage that time. Just shrink it
mm-hmm,
down to 30 minutes.
mm-hmm,
Plan. Then prioritize. Like, hey, I really haven't seen my friend in a long time. Let me put this as a higher priority. If I can't go to the gym today, I'll just go tomorrow. That helps you
mm-hmm,
manage that stress. And
mm-hmm,
then, along with those two, you can plan and prioritize with consistency. What I found helpful for me is when I'm trying to like hang out with my friends, it's hard to get people, especially with guys. I don't know why it's so hard to organize any social gathering with dudes. Like we can't have a definite answer, and then some of us just show up out the blue. But like if you have like a planned meeting or planned lunch every month, that's easier to work around, and that gives more flexibility for others. Like, hey, I know I have this coming up. At least I don't have to stress about, trying to maintain my friendships. I know I'm going to see him such and such day. It helps. I don't know. It might help you. And then lastly, you said, carve out time for yourself, recharge.
mm-hmm,
When finding the balance, a lot of things are going to take energy out of you. You got to have a way to put that energy back in. So for you, it's like hang out with friends. That gives you that energy back. Find what
mm-hmm.
gives you that energy because that's going to help you get stronger when you juggle that stuff in your life. So, yeah,
Yeah,
honestly,
and
great
I will.
stuff. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to add one more thing. I was thinking that um, I what recharges me is hanging out with my friends, and that's because I'm an extrovert. But I know some introverts out there like, oh no, 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 I gotta do something by myself. I gotta get away from people. So if that's your thing, and that if that's what you want to do, go for it. Just do whatever feels good for you.
And yeah, it's important that you mentioned that. Like, these come from our perspective and our situation, but let us know in the comments how you're handling your adult life or how you're handling your life and responsibility in general. What's worked for you in your particular situation? And maybe that could help someone else who's also in a similar situation. So, yeah, just let us know in the comments.
Hmm.
Cool.
Cool, cool, cool. Good talk. Well, thank y'all for listening, and we hope to see you back here on the next episode.